things are important. I want to send a quick shout out to the brother Sherrano Stingley,
Yes.
and prayers to his family. This is a brother in Sacramento who basically had an altercation with cops last Tuesday. Based on his daughter's testimony and what his daughter has said, he has been suffering mental health issues at the time. She has known him to be going through these type of things. So last Tuesday, the cops are called.
Yeah.
Someone says he tried to steal a catalytic converter or get in their home, something of this magnitude. But we understand the brother was suffering from a mental health
Right.
episode, as they say. At the time, there's a camera that basically shows him running out of the yard or the front of someone's house, Sonia, and his hands are up. His hands are
Yeah.
up. They bring him to the ground. The brother is reluctant to succumb to what they're trying to do to him for whatever reason. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But ultimately, he's on life support. He's on life support currently. They say he had meth in his system, cocaine, all these different drugs, right? But I think I bring this up. It's perfect based on everything you were just saying, Sonia,
Absolutely.
because this is another case of a mental health situation, not
Yeah.
a serious crime
Right.
being committed.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, how do we handle? Because his hands, he was not fighting like that. His
Yeah.
hands were up. Hey, you got me. But they're trying so hard to get him to the ground. Sonia, I have a question for you. Like, in your opinion,
Yeah.
if we have a mental health issue like this, where there's no gun, there's
Mm-hmm.
no threat of violence from the individual, what do we think a cop should do? I'm thinking, let him go. If he wants to run or something, let him run. If you're trying
Right.
to accost him and you can't, taser, any moves you learn, none of this shit is
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Let him run. You don't put him in a situation where he on life support, right?
Right, right. No, I 100% agree. I think that we've gotten so desensitized to, and unfortunately unwilling to address the intersection of drug addiction and mental health crises. And let me just add in there poverty. I'm always going to add poverty to the mix of it, right? So if a person is dealing with poverty, and we already know that the most marginalized people in community suffer with issues of trying to survive in this country when they are having experiences. So let's just say the Black community, because you and I both agree that, when things happen to Black folks, they happen 10 times worse compared to other communities, right? So if and let's go put in there a layer of mental health professionals and psychologists and counselors and things. Dr. Joy DeGrew's work on post-traumatic slave syndrome is extremely important in the line of every Black person in this country historically from the time of slavery. So that means generations, and it builds on generation after generation. We're carrying the trauma of our ancestors. If we are experiencing post-traumatic slave syndrome, very similar to post-traumatic stress syndrome, that when trauma happens, we're carrying and we don't know how to deal with, mitigate, how to stop that thing, it causes us to act erratic. It causes us to seek possible medication with alcohol, with drugs.
Mhm.
It causes us to not be ourselves. And so when I think about a person of this man's caliber who has a history, right? A documented history. And typically people who are experiencing mental health crises, right, have some kind of documented history. And so I agree that an individual who doesn't have a gun, doesn't have a weapon, they're not a physical threat to anyone else or even themselves. We have to, I tell people all the time, don't call the police. They are the worst thing you can call in a situation like that. Because a person who's experiencing mental health crisis, they're going to see that person with a badge and a gun and a uniform as, and
Yeah,
so that
that's
might have been what the case was. His hands were up and he wasn't fighting, but because of the trauma that's going on in his body, it was like defense mechanism, cradle up. Let
that's
me protect
exactly.
myself from
Mhm.
the unknown. And that's what we don't want. So I always shout out MH First, which is Mental Health First. It's an nonprofit organization here in town. One of my homegirls in community, Asantawa Boykins, who is also a nurse. at UC Davis, who was also one of the founders of APTP, the Anti-Police Terror Project, came up with mental health first is because she knows that when people show up in street clothes who are trained professionals who can address someone and say, okay, how can we help you in this situation be safe?
Mm-hmm.
People are more likely to listen and come with and negotiate with that person rather than do that with an officer in a uniform.
Damn, Sonia, it's so funny you say that because when he came out the door and he seen cops, and we know the aura of a police officer, the lights, the damn uniform, to a lot of people in our community, it's jarring. So that's what he did. He seen the cops and he was in shock for a minute, then came out with his hands up. If he would have seen an individual with just regular clothes on, trying to talk to him, the whole narrative of that situation could have been changed, because I see they're trying to shape the narrative as he was on drugs, he's black, he was already shiftless. Fuck that, man. This brother was going through something prior. And when we talk about like even the school system, a lot of our young men were put on like HDH medicine or all these medicines for being disabled, quote unquote, or having this issue. And what I do understand is you give these medicines to kids who are struggling with different things and you don't want to deal with it. And then when they become adults, they're now seeking drugs as well. So when I seen all the drugs they say is in his system combined with mental health problems, who knows how long he's been dealing with that, just being black, because like you spoke about, it's just added on because of our damn skin color. It was handled incorrectly, and we're always putting money in resources and energy towards things I think are asinine to a degree. People in impoverished communities, people who don't have money, end up having a lot of other problems, America.
Yes.
It don't matter. Look, I'm a mobile notary by trade. That's like what I do during the daytime to make my money. You know what I mean? I go to a lot of people's houses. All kinds of people, nice people, but black hoods. There's white people who live in versions of black hoods, everybody. It's just not criminalized. The police ain't always over there. They're not getting a hard time because they're poor. Maybe in certain instances, but we got to realize that a lot of the time this is a poor people thing, a black people thing. And looking at these politics or these politicians deliberate over simple things. That's why I try to talk to whoever I can about, okay, give me some of the backstory, because the shit looks
never add up.
It never adds up. So I appreciate you being there, sister. Talking about Sherrano, Stingley. Prayers to his family. Hopefully they figure that out. Do whatever they can. I think maybe they may do a civil lawsuit. I don't know. But in that
I'm sure a lawsuit is coming. I'm very positive that
make them pay, because that shouldn't have happened to that brother. So moving along real quick. What I want to discuss with my sister, Deion Sanders, our brother, dominant athlete, football player, baseball player, one of the most polarizing athletes that we've seen in our history, from a visual stance, from a business stance. Deion did a lot of great things in his career. So he took a job at Jackson State. He re-energized that program. His cachet was able to get a lot of great recruits to that school. They was almost able to turn it around based on his expertise, his experience. Who the hell can argue with Deion, right? This guy is proven. And he's motivating, he's inspiring, he's charismatic. Like, he got all them tools, and he proved it on the field, you see? So he decided after 3 years to go to Colorado from Jackson State. Now, Sonia, like I always ask you, when you seen that the brother Deion was going to PWI, that's one way you can say it. He's going to a bigger school, more dollars to spend, more opportunity to get bigger recruits. When you seen he left Jackson State, what were some of the first things going through your mind?
I had mixed feelings. I mean, you know that I'm a HBCU group, like nut. I'm like, no. We need to get more of our babies over there so that more dollars can come into the HBCU system. Like, that is a reality. But as a business person, I'm not mad at Deion. Like,